Welcome everyone. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Zohar on Parshat Emor, on the Parsha of Emor, and we're going to talk about the Shofar. Rosh Hashanah is coming up soon, and many people have the custom to blow Shofar every day of the month of Elul, the month of Virgo, which is the month we're now in. So I want to go deeper into what exactly the Shofar does, why we do it, what it means, etc. Let's begin. Rabbi Yitzchak patach, תיקעו בחודש שופר, בכסל ליום חגנו. So Rabbi Yitzchak starts with a verse about blowing the shofar at the beginning of Tishrei, the beginning of Libra, known as Rosh Hashanah. אשרי הם ישראל, שהקדוש ברוך הוא קרב אותם מכל אומות העולם ובחר בהם. Praised are the Israelites that the Creator brought them closer from all the nations of the world, and He chose them. And He brought them from a far place. Like it says, So He brings another verse from the book of Joshua, and Joshua said to the whole nation, this is what God said, On the other side of the river your fathers lived. Why does it say that they lived on the other side of the river? Meaning that the Creator brought them from far away. And the Creator brought them closer to Him. And it's written that God took Abraham and He brought him across the river, meaning the Jordan River. These verses we need to look into deeper. Why? Didn't the Israelites know their own history, that Abraham was originally on the other side of the Jordan and then God told him to cross over into the land of Israel, or as it was called back then, Canaan? So why did Joshua have to tell the Israelites that this is what God said? It doesn't seem to be needed that God needed to tell them that. It's just they know their own history. It's like most people, you know where your grandparents came from. It's the same idea here. So why did we need to go through all of this? So saying there's a deeper understanding here. The entire Torah, the whole 5 books of Moses, is revealed and sealed just like the name of God, Shu Satum V'Galoi, which is also revealed and concealed. How is it revealed and concealed? Shekatuv Ba'avaya V'Nikra Ba'adni. So it's written one way, it's written Yud Kei Vav Kei, and it's pronounced Adonai, Adni. Mishum Sha'Torah Kula Hi Shem HaKadosh, because the entire Torah is the holy name. And that's why it's revealed and concealed just like the holy name. So now back to our question. If all of the Israelites and Joshua already knew this history that Abraham came from the other side of the Jordan River, why did God need to tell them this? The secret of the thing is, the Creator acted with great kindness towards the Israelites. That He chose the forefathers, meaning Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and He made them into a chariot for His honor. And He took them from the upper river. When we say upper river, we're not talking about a physical river, we're talking about spiritual rivers. And also when He said that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were turned into a chariot, not physically obviously, we're talking about spiritual things here. The light of all lights, which is Bina. So this upper river that we talked about, that it said that God brought Abraham from the other side of, so that river we're talking about is the spiritual level of Bina. זה שאמר, כה אמר השם, בעבר הנהר ישבו אבותיכם מעולם. הנהר, היינו נהר ההוא, הידוע והנודע, דהיינו בינה. So, God brought Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we'll get soon into what they represent spiritually, from across the river, meaning from Bina, in order to be crowned by them. If you're confused, don't worry, we're going to go much deeper. We'll explain everything. פירוש, האבות הוא סוד חגת דזר אנפין. So first, the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, are chesed, gvura, tiferet of Zer Anpin. I just said a lot of terminology. There are 10 spiritual levels from Keter to Malchut. Keter, Chochma, Bina, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So, Abraham is Chesed, Yitzchak or Isaac is Gvura, and Yaakov or Jacob is Tiferet. ונודע שכל המוחין שיש להם לחגת הללו הם על ידי עליית זר אנפין לבינה. All the lights that are in this Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, or what I'm going to call from now on Chagat, are through they came to Zer Anpin through Bina. אשר בינה ותפארת ומלכות דבינה שנפלו בקטנות הבינה לזר אנפין. So the lights are there because Zer Anpin, the spiritual system of Zer Anpin, went up into Bina. And when Bina, Tiferet, and Malchut of Bina, when they fell, when Bina was in smallness, which is a very deep idea we won't get into today, when they fell to Zer Anpin, הנה בגדלות הבינה, בעת שהחזירה בינה ותפארת ומלכות אלו למדרגתה. But when Bina is fixed into greatness, and Bina, Tiferet, and Malchut of Bina are back where they should be, נמשכו עמהם גם חגת דזר אנפין ועלו עם בינה. So how did Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet of Zer Anpin go up to Bina? So first Bina was in smallness and it fell down to Zer Anpin, and then when it was fixed, when Bina was in greatness again, they brought Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet of Zer Anpin up with them. ואז נמצאים חגת דזר אנפין דבוקים שם בבינה בקו שמאל שלה. So then we see that Chagat of Zer Anpin is united with the left column of Bina, שהוא בינה תפארת ומלכות, שחזרו למדרגתם. What is the left column of Bina? It's the Bina, Tiferet, and Malchut of Bina that was returned to its place. וזה סוד הכתוב, בעבר הנהר ישבו אבותיכם בגומר. And this is what it means in the verse. On the other side of the river, your forefathers sat, ויעבדו אלוקים אחרים, and they worshipped other gods. כי קו השמאל דבינה, so the left column of Bina, היה אז במחלוקת עם קו הימין. Was in an argument, it was in a conflict with the right column. What does that mean? והשפיע חוכמה ממעלה למטה, and Chokhmah, the spiritual level of Chokhmah was shining from above to below. שמזה יונקים עבודה זרה ואלוקים אחרים. And from that type of shining, that's where avodah zara and other gods, that's where those klipot, those inclinations, that's where they draw their energy from. אמנם אחר כך העלה זר אנפין את המסך דחיריק. So it seems like we have a bit of a situation here. We have a situation where the left is arguing with the right, and the klipot, the inclinations of other gods, are getting energy. So what happens now? So Zer Anpin העלה את מסך דחיריק. So the masach of chirik, again another deep concept, which another time. All you need to know is there is this barrier that Zer Anpin used called Masach de Chirik. שעל ידי זה מיעט את קו שמאל דבינה. Through this, Zer Anpin minimized the left column of Bina. ואיחד אותו עם הימין, and united it with the right column, meaning it ended the conflict that they were having. ונעשה שלום בין הקווים, and there was peace made between the two columns. אבל אז נרחק זר אנפין ויצא מן הגר לחוכמה שבשמאל הבינה. But then the Zeranpin, which, as we said before, the Chagat of Zeranpin was united with the left column of Bina. So now it actually distanced itself from it, and it went out from the Gimel Rishonot, which means the first three. It's talking about Ketel, Chokhmah, and Bina. The Chokhmah shebesmol Bina. So it came out. It was united with the top three of the left column of Bina. So now it distanced itself from them. Because before the two columns left and right of Bina were united, the kav small haya b'machloket. Before all of this, haya leZeranpin gar de chokhmah min kav small. Zeranpin used to have the gar, the gimel rishonot, or the first three keter chokhmah bina, from the left column. Aval ata shechiya v'yiched yamin u'smol ze bezeh. But now that he forced the two together, Zeranpin forced the two together. Kvar en lo leZeranpin el avav ksavot de chokhmah. Now it only has the six sfirot chesed kavod tiferet netzach hod yesod from the left column of Bina. Mechamat itma'atut kav small, because the left column was minimized. So when we say that the left column was minimized, it means that we cut the gar from the vav ksavot. Vav ksavot meaning the lower six, the cut off six, meaning because they're cut off from the gimel rishonot. And this that it says that God, this is when it's God talking in the verse, and I took your father from the other side of the river. What does it mean? When it was still united with when Zeranpin was still united with the left column of Bina, it wasn't able to receive from there. What does that mean? So why couldn't Zeranpin receive while it was still attached there to left column of Bina? Because the left column was in conflict with the right column. Okay, so what? So we said that while the left column was in conflict with the right column, that the klipa, the inclination of other gods, was getting energy. So it was draining the energy, and Zeranpin wasn't able to receive energy, to receive light. Now that it's distanced itself from this left column of Bina, Zeranpin did, so now it seems kind of counterintuitive. Now that we made the left column minimized, now that we cut off the gar, the first three, now Zeranpin is able to receive all of the lights from the vav tzavot, from the lower six of the left column, and get all of their greatness and their light. When Chagat of Zeranpin were united with the left column of Bina, they weren't able to receive anything. But after they distanced themselves, and the left column was minimized to the vav ksavot, then they were able to crown themselves with the light from this river, meaning Bina. Okay, so I started the lesson by talking about that we're going to go into the Shofar. When are we talking about the Shofar? HaKatuv Omer Me'olam. The verse says Me'olam, which translates to forever, but also means the world. Shoel, so he asks, Ma rotze beze kan? Why the word Me'olam? Why forever? Or from before? Umeshiv, Ela la'arot chokhmah hu, שמעבר הנהר היינו מעולם, כי נהר ההוא נקרא עולם. So to show you the wisdom, what wisdom? That me'olam, I mean from before, always, is actually referring to the same thing that the river is referring to. What is the river referring to? שהבינה נקרא גם כן עולם. So Bina is also called world, or עולם. ועל כן מעולם פירושו כמו מעבר הנהר. So whenever it says me'olam, it's referring to the same thing as from the other side of the river, because the river, because the Hebrew word for river, nar, and the Hebrew word for always or world, olam, refer to the same thing. They both refer to Bina. ועל כן אומר, and that's why it says, בעבר הנהר ישבו בתיכם מעולם, להראות חסד ואמת שעשה הקדוש ברוך הוא לישראל. So that's why it says that they sat on the other side of the river, to show the kindness and truth that the Creator dealt with the Israelites. What did he do? בזה אשר ויקח את אביכם את אברהם מעבר הנהר, והוציאו מקו השמאל שבבינה. This whole process that we talked about, that the Chagat of Zeranpin distanced themselves from the left column of Bina, and only then were they able to receive, that's actually what those verses are talking about. So what's the kindness that the Creator did with the Israelites? So what did we learn from all of this? So you should focus on, it said, ויקח את אברהם, I took Avraham, but it doesn't say that I took Yitzchak. It only talks about Avraham. Before we go into interpreting why Avraham and not Yitzchak, so what was the kindness that the Creator did for the Israelites? It's saying that before, it's not talking about the physical Israelites, it's all talking about a spiritual system. So what was the kindness? The kindness was that before Zeranpin, when it was united with the left column of Bina, it couldn't receive anything. The kindness was that it removed Zeranpin from the left column of Bina, it distanced it from it, and then Zeranpin was able to receive everything. That's the kindness. So how come it talks about Abraham and not Yitzchak? Meshiv el Avraham, shu chesed Zeranpin, because Abraham, which is chesed of Zeranpin, the kav yamin, and also right column, לא תתדבק באותו הנער, שהוא קו שמאל דבינה, didn't unite with this left column of Bina, כמו Yitzchak, like Yitzchak did. What's Yitzchak? Yitzchak, שהוא קו שמאל דזרנפין. Yitzchak or Isaac is the left column of זרנפין. שנתדבק בו בצדו להתחזק, דיינו בצד שמאל דבינה, שהוא הצד של יצחק. So, because Yitzchak is left column, and we're talking about the left column of Bina here, so the left column of Zeranpin was more united with the left column of Bina because they strengthened each other. The left column is associated with judgment. פירוש, שיצחק עודנו דבוק בחלק של קו שמאל דבינה. So what does it mean that he was connected more? It means that Yitzchak is still connected with, and at this point in what we're talking about, Yitzchak is still connected to the left column of Bina. Because he receives the Vav Ktsavot, the 6 lower ones of the left column of Bina. But Avraham, which is right column and kindness and mercy, Abraham, the right column left completely. That's why it says that God took Abraham, meaning Abraham, the right column really did leave completely, the left column not so much. Bore, Bina. So come and see. This river that we're calling Bina, even though normally, in general, Bina and judgment aren't in the same sentence. Normally, Bina doesn't have to do with judgment. Because normally, Bina is the aspect of mercy. Even with this, there are judgments that come out of Bina from its side, from the left side. When is there judgment in Bina? When there is the light of wisdom without the light of mercy. And that's when the judgment is strengthened within it. And when there is light of wisdom without light of mercy, that's when Isaac, the left column, is strengthened. Then the upper worlds and the lower worlds pile on with the judgment. And the chair of judgment is prepared. Which is, what's the chair of judgment? Meaning, Malchut in the aspect of judgment. Ba'melech HaKadosh, and the Holy King. What's the Holy King? Shu Zeranpin. So when we say the Holy King, we're talking about Zeranpin, not a physical king. יושב על כיסא הדין ודן את העולם. Sits on the chair of judgment and judges the world. When does this happen? By the way, this happened on Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah, the king of the world, Zeir Anpin, God, is sitting on the chair of judgment, Malchut, when it's in the aspect of judgment, to judge the world. Then the original verse that we brought about blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah in preparation for Rosh Hashanah, that's when we're talking about blowing the shofar. Through the shofar, we turn judgment into mercy. אשריהם ישראל שיודעים להעביר כיסא הדין ולתקן כיסא הרחמים. ובמה עושים זה? בשופר. So praised are the Israelites that know how to change judgment to mercy. How do they do this? Through the shofar. Rabbi Abba היה יושב לפני רבי שמעון. So Rabbi Abba was sitting in front of Rabbi Shimon. אמר לו, הרי הרבה פעמים שאלתי על שופר הזה, מהו עניינו? Rabbi Abba says, I asked many times what exactly this shofar is. ועד עתה עוד לא נתיישבתי בו, and I still don't get it. אמר לו, ודאי זה הוא ביאורו של הדבר. So Rabbi Shimon answered, okay, I'll take care of you. This is what it means. כי ישראל צריכים ביום הדין שופר ולא קרן. So it's important to know, this is from a physical perspective, that the shofar, it's supposed to be one type of horn, not another type of horn. It's not supposed to come from It's not supposed to come from an ox, and it's supposed to be curved. It's not supposed to be straight. כי קרן הרי נודע באיזה מקום הוא, because it's known from another place that a keren, a straight horn, שהוא רומז על המלכות, it hints to malchut, שהיא בחינת דין, which is the idea of judgment. So that's why we don't use a straight horn, because that has to do with judgment. מה שאין כן שופר רומז על הבינה. But shofar, the curved horn that you see everyone using, that hints to bina, שהיא רחמים, which is mercy. אמנם למדנו, אשר בדיבור ובמעשה צריכים להראות ולעורר דברים סתומים. So we learned that the way to reveal hidden things or sealed things is through actions and words. What's the action of the words? דהיינו בתקיעת שופר ובברכתה. Through the blowing of the shofar and the blessing on it. בואו ראה, כששופר הוא העליון, when the upper shofar, or again we're talking about a spiritual shofar, שבו אורותיהם של הכל, which within it is the lights of everything, דהיינו בינה, so the upper shofar is בינה, בעת שגימל קווין שלה מיוחדים זה בזה, when its three columns are united together, שכל המוחין דזעיר אנפין דאצילות וביאה ממנה באים, and all of the lights of all the four worlds of Zeir Anpin, from all the four worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. So all the lights from everywhere come from there, from Bina. אם הוא מסתלק ואינו מאיר לבנים, שהם זעיר אנפין ומלכות. If Bina stops to shine the light towards the children, who are the children, זעיר אנפין and מלכות, אז מתעורר הדין, והכיסאות מתעדכנים לבית הדין. Then judgment is awakened, and the chairs are fixed for judgment. ושופר זה שהוא סוד בינה, and this shofar, which is the secret of בינה, נקרא אלו של יצחק, is called the ram of יצחק. Okay, דהיינו תוקפו של יצחק, which means the strength of יצחק. What's the strength of יצחק? Kel perusho takif, because the interpretation of a ram is that it's strong. You know, if you've ever seen a ram, they run into things full speed ahead. מלשון ואת אלי הארץ לקח. והוא שבחם של האבות, and this is the praise of the fathers. What's the praise of the fathers? שהם חגת שמקבלים כל שבחם משופר ההוא. So חסד גבורת תפארת חגת get all of their light from that shofar, from בינה. וכשנסתלק שופר גדול הזה, ואינו מאיר לבנים, and when בינה stops shining to the children, to זעיר אנפין ומלכות, והיינו בעת שאין ייחוד בזעיר אנפין ומלכות, what does it mean that it stops shining to them? It means that there isn't a unity between זעיר אנפין ומלכות, אלא זעיר אנפין יונק מקו ימין של הבינה, והמלכות יונקת מקו שמאל של הבינה. but they're separate, meaning Ze'er Anpin draws its light from the right column of Bina, and Malchut draws its light from the left column of Bina. מכיוון שהשמאל דבינה ובלי ימין, מסתלקים המוחין דבינה מזעיר אנפין. And when the left column and the right column of Bina are separated, the light of Bina leaves Ze'er Anpin. ואז מתחזק יצחק, and then Yitzchak, or the left column, is strengthened, על ידי שליטת קו שמאל דבינה, because now the left column of Bina is in control. ומתעדכן הדין בעולם, and that's when the judgment on the world starts. כי בעת שהחוכמה דשמאל היא בלי חסדים, נמשכים דינים קשים לעולם. Whenever there's the left column without the right column, or judgment without mercy, that's when tough judgment reaches the world. וכשנתעורר שופר הזה, and when this shofar, Bina, is awakened, וכשבני אדם שבים מעוונותיהם, when us, the people on earth, stop sinning and we do what's right, צריכים למשוך בכל שופר מלמטה, we have to use a physical shofar down here, וכל ההוא עולה למעלה, and the sound of the shofar goes up into the spiritual worlds, אז מתעורר שופר אחר עליון שהוא בינה, and it awakens the upper shofar, which is Bina, ומתעוררים הרחמים והדין מסתלק, and it awakens mercy and the judgment leaves. וצריכים להראות מעשה על ידי תקיעת שופר, and we have to show action through the blowing of the shofar, כדי לעורר שופר אחר, שהוא בינה, in order to awaken the shofar, which is Bina. ולהוציא בשופר הזה שלמטה אלו הקולות, תשרת וכולו, and all the different sounds that the person who blows the shofar makes on Rosh Hashanah and on the days of Elul. There's Tkiya, which is one long blast, Shvarim, which is 3 shorter blasts, and Tuah, which is at least 9 very short blasts. So all these different sounds that we make with the shofar, we have to use these sounds. להראות שכל אלו הקולות של מעלה הכלולים כולם בשופר עליון, that because all these different sounds have a spiritual correspondent. שהם ג' קווים ופרטיהם. What are their spiritual correspondents? Each sound has a correspondence with one of the 3 columns. בכלולים בבינה, and they're all included within Bina. התעוררו לצאת מן הבינה לזעיר אנפין ומלכות. So through the different sounds that we make with the shofar, the sounds, or the 3 columns in Bina, will be awakened and go and return to זעיר אנפין ומלכות. ביאור הדברים, deeper understanding. בכל ראש השנה חוזר העולם לקדמותו, כמו שהיה ביום ד' המעשה בראשית. Every year, on Rosh Hashanah, the world reverts to a state of the way it was on the 4th day of creation. שאז נתמעטה מלכות, which is when the malchut was made smaller. כי המלכות נקראת שנה, malchut is called year, the Hebrew word for year. וי"ב חודשי השנה הם סדרי התיקון שלה, מתחילתה עד גמר התיקון. And the 12 months of the year that we have are in the order of fixing the malchut from the beginning until we finish fixing it. ואם נשלמה השנה ולא גמרנו תיקונה, and remember, it's up to us. So if a year went by and we didn't finish the job, we didn't fix malchut completely, היא ניתנה לנו לתקנה בשנה אחרת. We're given another year to do it. ואנו צריכים שוב להתחיל מראשית היותה כמו שהייתה ביום ד' המעשה בראשית. And we have to start from the beginning. There's no savior progress. If we didn't get it done in 1 year, then we start from the beginning. Everything reverts to how everything was on the 4th day of creation, and we start again. וכן בכל שנה ושנה עד גמר התיקון. And it's like this year after year, year in, year out, until we finish the job. וביום ד' המעשה בראשית כתוב, and about the 4th day of creation it's written, ויעש אלוקים את שני מאורות הגדולים, God created the 2 great lights. שהמלכות הייתה גדולה כמו זרענפין. What are the 2 great lights? The sun and the moon. The sun is זרענפין, the moon is מלכות. So it's saying that שהמלכות הייתה גדולה כמו זרענפין. The moon, not the physical moon, maybe the physical moon back in the day was the same size as the sun, I don't know, but we're talking about spiritual aspects of everything. So Malchut was on the same level as זעיר אנפין. כי אז היה זעיר אנפין מלביש לקו ימין דבינה. זעיר אנפין was the clothing for the right column of Bina. ומלכות לקו שמאל דבינה. And malchut was the clothing for the left column of Bina. ואלו בית קווין דבינה היו אז נפרדים זה מזה, and the two columns of Bina were separate from one another. ועל כן היה הקו שמאל דבינה בחוכמה בלי חסדים, and the left column of Bina was in the light of wisdom without mercy. שאז נמשכים מקו שמאל דבינה דינים קשים, והוא חושך ולא אור. And when there is light of wisdom without light of mercy, left without right, that's tough judgment and darkness without light. ואין החוכמה יכולה להאיר בלי חסדים, because the light of wisdom can't shine without mercy. So when there's light of wisdom without light of mercy, it's called darkness without light because nothing can shine. ועל כן נבחן אז שהקדוש ברוך הוא יושב על כיסא דין. So this is what we define as God sitting on the throne of judgment. ודינים נמשכים לעולם, and judgment is drawn to the world. כן מקבלים רק מן המלכות הנקרא כיסא לזר אנפין, because we in this world receive only from malchut, which is called the throne for זר אנפין. ואם המלכות היא בשמאל הבינה כשהוא נפרד מימין, and if malchut is on the left column of Bina, like it is when it's separated from the right, שאז מלא דינים, נמצאת המלכות מושפעת דינים לעולם. So if malchut is found only with the left, not with the right, then there's judgment on the world. דהיינו בעת שבית קווין דבינה נפרדים זה מזה. At the time when the two columns of Bina are separated from each other, left and right, אז מתגבר השמאל שנקרא יצחק. The left column, which is called Yitzchak, gets stronger. הוא משפיע דינים על המלכות and sends judgment to מלכות, וממלכות לעולם and from מלכות to the world. ואז ניתנה לנו מצוות תקיעת שופר. And then, so we have judgment coming to the world. What do we do about it? We were given this mitzvah, this commandment of blowing the shofar. ובית תיקונים נעשו על ידי תקיעת שופר, and we fix two things through the shofar, and this is very important, pay attention carefully. תיקון ראשון, the first thing we're talking about here, הוא להעלות מים נוקבים לעורר זיווג על מסך דחריק שבזר אנפין. I'm about to use some terminology you might not understand. I suggest taking some of my father's classes on Zohar and Kabbalah, so you can understand the terminology. But it's to elevate Maim Nukvin, or feminine waters, literally translates, but we'll leave it at Maim Nukvin because it's a spiritual thing. לעורר זיווג על מסך דחריק שבזר אנפין, so that there will be a coupling above the masach, or the barrier of chirik in זר אנפין, שהוא במקום בינה, which is in the place of בינה, שעל ידי זה הוא ממעט קו השמאל ומייחד אותו עם הימין. So this is the part that's important. Through this, we minimize the left column and we unite it with the right column. ויצאו ג' קווין בבינה, שהוא סוד חוכמה בינה דעת. And there will be 3 columns in Bina, which is the secret of חוכמה, בינה, and דעת. שכל שופר עולה בסוד מים נוקבין ומעורר הקול של המעלה. When the voice of the shofar, the sound of the shofar down here, goes up and through the secret of מים נוקבין and awakens the upper voice, meaning the voice of the shofar from above, meaning Bina. שהוא סוד זר אנפין המכונה קול. So what is the sound itself? זר אנפין is called קול. זר אנפין is called sound or voice. שהוא למעלה בבינה, when it's up there in בינה. בזה שאמר כדי נתאר שופר אחר דילאה. So, and then בינה, דהיינו שקו האמצעי, שהוא סוד רחמים. So then Bina has this third column, Tiferet, which is the secret of mercy. נתעורר ומייחד בית הקווין דבינה זה בזה. It awakens and unites the other 2 columns of Bina, left and right. ואז, שאחר שקו שמאל נכלל בימין, once the left and right are included together, מסתלקים כל הדינים מהשמאל, all of the judgment leaves the left, וזהו תיקון האחד הנעשה על ידי תקיעת שופר. And that's the first thing that we're doing with the blowing of the shofar. So to recap, what we're doing with the first thing we're doing with the shofar is, we are minimizing the left column, cutting off the gal, the gimel rishonot, uniting it with the right column through the central column. So left is judgment, right is kindness, central column is mercy. Tikkun bet, what's the second thing we're doing with shofar? Hu leotzi hakolot mibina, to draw out these voices from Bina, shem gimel kavin sheyatzu ba'al yedei zar anpin shenikra kol, which are the three columns that come out of Bina through zar anpin, which is called kol, or voice. Ulamshicham lezar anpin bimkomo lamata, and to draw them down to the place where zar anpin belongs, lower. Besod ma'achar shetlat kavei habina mechad nafki, once the three columns of Bina come from one, mizer anpin az chal betat kaime. So once the three columns come from Zer Anpin while it's in Bina, they're able to go down to Zer Anpin when Zer Anpin's in its place. Ki kol hamochin she'atachton gorem la'elyon zoche b'hem gam hatachton. Because everything that a lower system awakens, all the light that a lower system awakens in an upper system, the lower system also benefits from. Ela shetzrichim ma'aseh lemata la'orer ze lemala. But we need to do something down here in order to awaken this above. And this is done through the order of the sounds. Gimel pamim tashrat, 3 times tkiya shvarim turat tkiya. Gimel pamim tashat, 3 times tkiya shvarim tkiya. Gimel pamim tarat, and 3 times tkiya turat tkiya. Which is that the thing that I just read, the 3 tashrat, 3 tashat, 3 tarat, in that order, that represents actually just the first 30 blasts of the shofar that we do on Rosh Hashanah, which we do 101 on the day of Rosh Hashanah. And through these sounds that we blow the shofar with down here, we give energy above. And that's why on this day, on Rosh Hashanah, we have to use the shofar, and to do the voice, the sounds in the right order. Which is the sound of the voices that I named earlier. And the meditation should be, while we're listening to shofar, while we're blowing shofar, is to awaken an entirely different shofar. Shei Bina, which means Bina, to awaken Bina. Shebo klolim hakolot shelemala shem chagat de zar anpin. So we have to awaken Bina because within Bina there is chagat of zar anpin. So now we're going to get into the details of the first 30 blasts. What is the meditation for each individual thing? Sounds long, it's not that long, it's not that much longer. Seder rishon shebegim l'sdarim shebatashrat. The first set of the 3 sets of tashrat. Remember, tashrat stands for tkiya, shvarim, turat, tkiya. Kol yotze umitater lemala bebina. So a sound comes out and is crowned above in Bina. Oler rkiim v'nifka ben harim aramim. It goes to high levels and hits between the upper mountains. This is all spiritual things. Ben bet kavei bina. So what does the between the mountains mean? It means between the 2 columns of Bina. Umisham megiel Avraham, and from there it arrives to Abraham. Shu chesed de zar anpin. What is Abraham? Chesed of zar anpin. Beshora berosho, and it rests on its head. Umitater v'hu mitorer. So it gets crowned, and then he is awakened. Abraham or Chesed of Zar Anpin is awakened. And then Chesed goes to the king's throne, God's throne, and makes it so that it's a throne of mercy. And we learned in a story, at the time when the first blast of the shofar, on the first day of Hoshanah, when we start the first blast of the shofar, Abraham wakes up and fixes the throne, and we call When we call this state that Abraham is in, we call that Abba. Dainu Chochma shebekav yamin de Bina. Why we call it Abba? Abba is another name for Chochma in the right column of Bina. Biur advarim. Let's go more. כבר ידעת בית התיקונים הנעשים על ידי תקיעת השופר. So we just covered the two things that we do with the shofar. What does that mean? So the first one was הוא לעורר יציאת קו האמצעי בבינה המייחד בית קווין זה בזה. The first one was to awaken the central column to unite the left and right of בינה. השני, אחר שיצאו ג' קווין בבינה ונכללו זה מזה. And then the second one is after the three columns are united once again and they come out of Bina, ממשיכים אותם במקום זרנפין, we bring them to the place of זרנפין. אומנם צריך לזכור בכל זה, we have to remember through all of this, שעיקר הנרצה מתקיעת השופר, the main idea that we're doing with this shofar, הוא למעט קו השמאל מגר שלו, is to cut off the גימל ראשונות, the gar, from the left column, which means to minimize it. ולבטל את דיניו הקשים, and to cancel its harsh judgments. הנמשכים מגר לשמאל אלו, because the harsh judgments are drawn from the gar of left column. והקולות שאנו מעלים הם כוחות הדין, and the sounds that we're using are actually powers of judgment. הממעטים את קו השמאל מן הגר שלו, that minimize. They're a different type of judgment. They're the type of judgment that actually helps minimize the left column of Bina. And then we can reveal the unity of the three columns of Bina in mercy. So as a general idea, there are three aspects of judgment in the secret of three seeds. Cholam, Shuruk, Chirik. So if you look at any Hebrew book which has vowels, there's one type of vowel that it's just a dot above the letter. There's another type of vowel that's a dot in the middle of the letter, and there's another type of vowel that's a dot under the letter. So the one on top is called Cholam, the one in the middle is called Shuruk, and the one on the bottom is called Chirik. Shadinim de Cholam, so the judgment that are referred to with the one on top, Cholam, Shusot Kav Yamin, which is the secret of the right column. So Cholam is right column. Ba'im Aliyat Malchut Lebina, come from, where does this judgment come from? From when Malchut goes up to Bina. V'ma'etet Bina levav k'tzavot bli rosh. So what happens when Malchut goes up to Bina? It minimizes Bina to having just Vav Tzavot, just the 6 lower Sfirot, without the top 3, without its Gav. Shuso Dinin Dinukva, and this type of judgment we call female judgment. It's not talking about physical females, it's just a female aspect of judgment in a spiritual sense. V'dinim de Shuruk, so the dot in the middle, Shusot Kav Small, which is left column, Ba'im Mechazarat Agar Lebina, Sheze Ne'asa Lekav Small de Bina. So once we return the gar to Bina, then so it's called the judgment of the left column is when we return the gar to Bina, and it's symbolized through the dot being in the middle of the letter. Because it's in the aspect of light of wisdom without mercy. Harsh judgments are drawn from it. And these judgments, when they come because that there is a gar on the left column, they're called male judgments. So the dot in the middle, which is left column, is called male judgment. Why? Because it's not judgment from lack. It's actually a judgment from gardus because the left column is strong there. And there's a third type of judgment, the dot on the bottom of the letter, שהוא סוד קו האמצעי, which is the secret of the central column, הכלולים מבית בחינות המענולה ומהבטחה. So the central column includes these two aspects which are very deep and we're not going to get into today, of locks and openings. וגם הם דינים דנוקבה, and it's also called female judgment. ותדע שדינים דנוקבה מכונים תרועה. And you should know that the female judgment is called תרועה. תרועה is the multiple short blasts. It sounds like this. So when you hear that on Rosh Hashanah or for the next month, that's female judgment. ודינים דדוחה מכונים שברים, and male judgment is called shvarim. That's the one that sounds like this. So it's 3 mid-length blasts. שכל אלו הדינים אנו מעוררים על ידי התקיעות. So all these judgments we awaken through the blowing of the shofar. בקו השמאל, within the left column. כדי למעט הגר שלו, in order to essentially cut off its head. The gar is the head of the system, so we're removing the gar from the left. בהתייחד עם הימין, and that way it'll be united with the right. ויש הפרש בין דינים לדנוקבה שבקו ימין לדינים דנוקבה שבקו האמצעי. There's a difference between the first female judgment that we talked about and the last female judgment we talked about. The first one is right column, the second one is central column, but what's the difference between them? כי דינים דנוקבה שבימין, the female judgment of the right, אף על פי שנלחמים עם קו השמאל, even though they're at war with the left column, מכל מקום אינם יכולים למעטו, they are not able to minimize the left column. This is the dinim of the judgment of the right column. ונמצא ששני בחינות הדינים שולטים בקו ימין. There are two types of judgment that rule in the right column. דינים דנוקבה של עצמו, its own female judgment, because we said that the judgment that comes from the right column is female judgment. וגם דינים דדוחה של קו השמאל. But also within the right column, it also has the male judgment, which is the harsher judgment in this case, of left column. בין אם נלחמים זה עם זה, ואין אחד יכול לנצח את חברו, and they're at war with each other and one can't win the other, אלא בסיוע של קו האמצעי, only with the help of the central column. נכנע השמאל, מה שאין כן הדינים דנוקבה שבקו האמצעי. So once the central column gets involved, then the left column is defeated. So what's different about the female judgment? What's different about the judgment in the central column, which we also call female judgment? הם מתגברים על קו השמאל וממעטים הגר שלו. They overpower the left column and they take away its gar, the גימל ראשונות. שאם מיעוט הגר נעלמים כל הדינים דדוחה. And with this taking away of the top 3 sfirot, Keter Chokhmah Bina, and the gar of the left column, all of the male judgments disappear. And the male judgments, remember, in this case, usually not, but in this case, they're the harsher judgments. ונמצא שבקו האמצעי אין דינים דדוחה כלל. So what's different about the central column is that within the central column, there is no male aspect judgments at all. אלא דינים דנוקבה בלבד, only female aspect judgments. ובקו שמאל ודאי שאין בו דינים דנוקבה כלל, אלא דינים דדוחה בלבד. So in the left column, as we know, it's only male judgments, no female judgments. So the center and the left are exact opposites with what type of judgment they have. כי אם היו שולטים בו דינים דנוקבה, היו מתבטלים מהגר שלו. Because in the left column, if there was any female judgments, then the gar of the left column, the head of the left column, would be minimized. הרי שבימין נוהג שברים תורה. So on the right, whenever we come to the blast of both shvarim and תורה together, that's right column. שוסו דינים דנוקבה עם דינים דדוחה. Why? Because we have both types of judgments together in the right column. ובשמאל נוהג שברים בלבד, and when we're talking about the left column, it's only shvarim. שוסו דינים דדוחה, because in the left, it's only male judgment. ובאמצעי נוהג תורה בלבד, שהוא דינים דנוקבה בלבד. And when we were talking about Torah, that's central column because it's only female judgment. אמנם כל אלו הדינים שאנו מעוררים עם הקולות הללו, אנו מכונים אותם רק לקו השמאל כדי למעטו. So all these judgments, not the judgment that we're trying to avoid. This is a different type of judgment. All these judgments that we're awakening with the sound of the shofar, we're directing them at the left column in order to minimize it. השברים תורה לקו שמאל הכלול בימין. The shvarim Torah, which is the both sounds put together, we direct at the left column, which is within the right. השברים לקו שמאל שבשמאל. Shvarim is for left, which is within left. התורה לקו שמאל שבאמצעי. And the Torah is for the left, which is within central. But wherever we're going with it, we're focusing on the left column aspect of any system. באופן שיש ג' הפרשים בהתעוררות הדינים שבשמאל על פי תכונת ג' הקווים. So there's 3 differences between the judgments of the left based on which column we're talking about. ועם זה תבין, and with this you can understand, אף על פי שבמקורם של ג' הקווים אין צריך להיות בהם יותר מ-ט' בחינות. So even though within the 3 columns, each column has its own 3 columns, so that's 9 total. So even though we don't need more than those 9, כי הם מחויבים להיכלל זה בזה, because they have to be included within one another. ואז יש ג' קווים בימין וג' קווים בשמאל וג' קווים באמצעי. There's 3 columns within the right, 3 columns within the left, and 3 columns within the center. Then ט' בחינות, which is 9. אמנם כיוון שיש ג' הפרשים בקו השמאל שבג' קווים, so even though there's 3 separations within the left column, which is the 3 columns, אשר בשמאל שבימין יש שברים תורה, because on the left of right there's shvarim Torah, ובשמאל שבשמאל on the left of left is shvarim, ובשמאל שבאמצעי and on the left of the center is Torah. על כן צריכים עוד ג' התקללות אחת של ט' בחינות בקו ימין בלבד. So we actually have to split it even more. דהיינו ג' קווים שבכל אחד מהם תשרת. So actually so far we have our regular 3 column system. Then within each column we have 3 more. When we're talking about the left of the right, we're talking about tashrat. When we're talking about left of left, we're talking about tashat. When we're talking about left of center, we're talking about tarat. So we're saying even within those, because we do each one 3 times, so within that we break it again into 3 each. וכן ט' בחינות בשמאל. So that's why we have 9 within the left of whatever system we're talking about. So now we have 9 for each left column. Within one of the 3 columns, we have 9 blasts. So the first set of 3 columns, which is within the right column, so now we're starting blast by blast. What does it mean? So the first blasts that you do on Hoshanah, you do 3 times Tkiya Shvarim Torah Tkiya. So it's like a sandwich. Every time we do any blast of the shofar, it's like a sandwich. You start with a Tkiya, that's the long one. Then, based on where you are, the middle changes, and then you end with another Tkiya, which is another long one. But it's always the same sandwich. So the first 3 sets are Tkiya, then Shvarim Torah, Tkiya. And we do that 3 times. דהיינו תקיעה ראשונה, so the first תקיעה, המעוררת קו ימין של הסדר הזה, awakens the right column of this set, ומתייתר לעילה and is crowned above, דהיינו שברים תורה. So what's crowned above? The שברים תורה, the part in the middle. המעוררים קו שמאל של הסדר הזה, which awaken the left column of this set, כי מעטר רומז לגר לשמאל, because when we're talking about crowning, it's talking about the gar of left column. So that's how we know that when it says it's crowned above, it's talking about the blast in the middle, because they have to do with the left column. היינו תקיעה שנייה המעוררת קו אמצעי. So now with the second tkiya, the one at the end of the sandwich, awakens the central column. אשר המסך דחיריק שבו, which is the barrier of חיריק, which the dot on the bottom of the letter. בבקע המדרגות כמעלה מסך למלכות למקום בינה, והמדרגות מתבקעות לכתר חוכמה, למעלה ובינה ותפארת ומלכות יורדים למטה. So what does this central column thing do? It splits the system. How does it split the system? We have keter and chokhmah on top, and bina tiferet u'malchut on the bottom. ואחר שנתעוררו ג' הקווים שבבינה הראשונים שבקו ימין, so after the three columns of bina, the first three columns of bina are awakened within the right column, צריכים להמשיכם לקו ימין לזרנפין שנקרא אברהם. Now we have to draw them to זרנפין, because the only way anything happens down here is if it comes from Bina to זרנפין to Malchut to the world. So now how do we get them from the right column of Bina to the right column of זרנפין? וזה שמה אמרתי לגבי אברהם, ונתעוררו גם בו ג' קווין שהם תשרת הנעל. So this, it says that also within Abraham, meaning within Chesed of Zeranpin, it's also awakened three columns. This that it says that it rests on his head, on Abraham's head, on the head of Chesed. Dainu Kav Yamin, which is the right column. Shusod Keter v'Chochma. So when it says that it rests on his head, that's talking about Keter and Chochma. Bitater and his crown talks about בינה ותפארת מלכות. שחזרו ונעשו גר בקו שמאל, because they went back and they returned the gal, the upper three of the left column. שהוא סוד קו האמצעי. So it's breaking down what it says in the Zohar. So it's going to go through this process of, it's going to talk about one or two words in the Aramaic, and then it's going to say what part of the shofar, what part of the spiritual system we're talking about. As V'shalei Bereisha is talking about the Keter and Chochma that rest on Abraham, on the Chesed. V'itater and his crown talks about Bina Tiferet Malchut. That talks about, which is the left column aspect. V'itaken Kursaya. So then we talk about the central column, which means that the central column is the part that fixes the throne. שמתקן כיסא הרחמים, it fixes it to be a throne of judgment, of mercy. It fixes it to be a throne of mercy. על ידי ייחוד ג' קווין, through the unity of the three columns. בג' קווין אלו נמשכים לחוכמה שדישראל עשה בתבונה. And the three columns are, and this is another, again, terminology of different spiritual systems. It's not important that you know exactly what it means. It's just when you meditate on the shofar, you should know that it's coming from these places. These are names of spiritual levels. These three columns are drawn from the chokhmah of Israel, Saba, and Tvuna, Shusod Abba, which is the secret of Abba, like we said before. So the chokhmah of the right column of Bina is called Abba. ועד כאן נגמרו הכוונות של סדר התשרת הראשון מגיעים לסדרי תשרת, וכל תשרת אלו הם בשליטת התקיעה, דהיינו קו ימין שבגיעים לקווין דימין. So this is the first sandwich of tashrat. So what we did just now, that's the meditation there. To recap, what did we just say? Basically we said the tkiya awakens right column, the shvarim Torah awakens left column, the second tkiya awakens central column, and it all goes down to the chesed of Zer Anpin, to the right of Zer Anpin, and awakens chesed of Zer Anpin so that the throne can be changed from judgment to mercy. That's what we did with the first sandwich. בתוך כך עולה כל השני, דהיינו תקיעה ראשונה בסדר בית ימין. So now we're going to the second sandwich of Tashrat. התקיף לשבור דינים קשים. This one is the warrior. This one is to break the harsh judgment. וזהו סדר השני. This is what we do with the second sandwich of Tashrat. דהיינו סדר ב' של תשרת, שהוא תחת שליטת השמאל דימין, because the second sandwich of tashrat is left of right. Before we were in the right of the left of Bina, now we're in the left of the right. דהיינו, שברים בתוקפי, דהיינו תורה. Okay, so we have harsh judgment and lighter judgment. So the harsher judgment is shvarim, male judgment, Yitzchak. Lighter judgment is Torah, female judgment. Vaz ole la Bina, so it goes up to Bina. V'chol dinim megar de small, and all the judgments from the gar of left column, hanifkashim shama lefanav nishbarim, that meet there, they have a little meeting there, they're all broken. Ad sholim l'mkom shel Yitzchak, until they go up to the place of Yitzchak, shu bezaranpin, which is within Zaranpin. Kevan sheyitzchak shu kav small de seder zeh, and once Yitzchak, which is the left column of this set, nitorer al yedei tkiya shniya. So once the judgments are broken, then through the second tkiya in the sandwich, the last part of the sandwich, shi b'chinat kav emtzai shebeseder zeh v'roeh et Avraham. So Yitzchak is awakened, and then he sees Abraham. What does it mean he sees Abraham? The left sees the right. What does it mean? What does that mean? Shu kav yamin deseder zeh mitaken et hakiseh shel rachamim la'amod afanav. So then, like we said before, Chesed of Zaranpin is fixing the chair to be a throne of mercy. Az nichna u'meshaber dina kaseh. Then the harsh judgment is destroyed or is broken. Hanimshach megar the small, and the harsh judgment is drawn from the gar of left column. And because of this, whoever is blowing the shofar needs to meditate with all of their heart, their desire, everything about them needs to meditate about this one thing. In order to break the power, to minimize this gar of the left column. This is the whole idea of the entire shofar. The whole day is for this one thing, just to minimize the left column. So we have to minimize the left column and to break the harsh judgment of this day. That's why it brings a verse. Praised is the nation that knows Torah. Why? Ki Torah hi lashon shbira, kmo Torah mibeshevet barzel. Because Torah, another translation for it is, it's the same language as breaking something. Yodei Torah vadai. Perush. כאן מבאר סדר ב' של תשרת שהוא תחת שליטת השמאל שבימין, אבל כולל בתוכו כל ג' הקווים, ועל כן תוקעים בו תשרת. So, it asks a question on the verse. Of course, we know Torah it's given, it's a commandment in the Torah. What do you mean? Why are we praised for something we were commanded to know? So it says, it's talking about something deeper. Because in this second set, it should be that we don't have Torah, because we're talking about left column here, and we said before that left column is shvarim alone. Only right column is shvarim Torah. So why are we doing both, even though it's the left column in the second of the three tashratim? ואף על פי שאמרנו שבקו שמאל אין שם דינים דנוקבה שהיא תרועה, אלא דינים דדוחה לבד שהוא שברים, זה אמור רק בשמאל דקו שמאל. So, it's not talking about any left column. It's talking about when we're in left of left, that's when you do shvarim. That's when you do shvarim alone. But because we're in left of right, we do shvarim and Torah together. ועל כן אפילו סדר ב' שבכאן, אין זה שמאל מה שבמקומו, אלא שמאל הכלול בימין. ולפיכך יש בו גם דינים דנוקבה. And therefore, because it's left of right, it has also within it female judgment. והוא בבחינת שברים תורה, and that's why we do שברים תורה. ומה שאומר כאן, היינו רק התחלה, אבל עיקר ביטול הגר דשמאל והכנעו הוא בקו האמצעי. And this that we said, that this second sandwich of tashratim breaks the judgment, doesn't fully break all the judgment, it's the beginning. This is how we start. The main part of canceling out the judgment happens in the central column. דהיינו בסדר ג' של תשרת בדיבור שלאחר זה, which is going to be in the third tashrat sandwich, which we're going to get to in a second. ונתבררו הכוונות של סדר תשרת השני של ג' פעמים תשרת. So now we've covered the meditations on the second sandwich of tashrat. So far we've covered a total of 8 blasts of the 101 that we do on Rosh Hashanah. Seder HaShlishi, so the third sandwich of Tashrat, שהוא סדר הג' של תשרת, which is the שהוא תחת שליטת קו האמצעי שבימין, which is the central column within the right. שהוא סוד תקיעה השנייה, הכל יוצא. So when the verse says that a sound comes out, דהיינו תקיעה האחד שבסדר זה, so it's referring to the first תקיעה in this set. ועולה היינו שברים תרועה, and it elevates. What's elevating? The shvarim teruah. ובוקע כל אלו הרקיעים, and it hits all these high places. היינו תקיעה השנייה. That's the second תקיעה. והרחמים מתעוררים, and then the mercy is awakened. וכל זה הוא בבינה, and all of this is within בינה. ומשם מגיע כל ההוא, and from there this sound arrives. דהיינו כל תשרת, which is the voice of תשרת, שהם תחת שליטת תקיעה השנייה לראשו של יעקב, דהיינו במקום זרנפין. ביעקב שהוא קו האמצעי שבסדר הזה. And all of this is under the control of the central column. התעורר ורואה את אברהם שהוא קו ימין שבסדר הזה. So it also says here that Yaakov, or the central column, is awakened and sees Abraham, or the right column, שמתעדכן בצד האחד, דהיינו בצד הימין לסדר זה. So Yaakov, or the central column, sees the right column doing its work to change the throne to a throne of mercy on the right side. אז אוחזים שניהם ביצחק. So then Avraham and Yaakov, or the right column and the central column, take a hold of Yitzchak, of the left column. שהוא קו שמאל בסדר זה. זה מצד זה, דהיינו ימין, וזה מצד זה. So the right column from one side and the central column from the other side. ותוקפם של הדינים דקו שמאל אינם יכולים לצאת לחוץ, and the strength of the judgment that comes from the left column is not allowed to come out. מחמת שנתמעטו הגר שלו, because the gar, the gimel ראשונות, or the first 3 ספירות, is minimized. ואלו ג' הסדרים, דהיינו ג' פעמים תשרת הנזכרים, הם כולם סדר אחד. And these 3 tashrat sandwiches are one set, we do them in a row, שכולם הם סדר תקיעות של אותם הקולות הנוהגים בקו ימין. Because they're all referring to right column. דהיינו 9 בחינות שבקו ימין, אשר השמאל הכלול בהם הוא בבחינת שברים תרועה ביחד. So these are the 9 aspects, because you take the right, you split it into 3 and then 3 again. So these are all within the right column. We just finished talking about the right column, the first set of shofar blowings, which is tkiya, shvarim, torah, tkiya, and you do that 3 times. That's the first set, right column. Now we'll start on the left column. סדר האחר, דהיינו ת' בחינות שהם ג' פעמים תשת. So we have 3 times tkiya, shvarim, tkiya, שהם בקו שמאל, which represents the left column. הנה סדר תשת הראשון שבכאן, the first of these 3 times tkiya, shvarim, torah, tkiya, which I'll call tashat from here on in. שהוא תחת שליטת ימין לשמאל. So the first tashat is the right of this left column. שהוא תקיעה הראשון. הכל יוצא. So now it's connecting the verse to what's happening spiritually. So the voice comes out, דהיינו תקיעה. So the first תקיעה, a voice comes out. וסליק, היינו שברים, and it goes up, that's the shvarim. המאיר ממטה למעלה, and it shines from below to above. ולוקח את אברהם במקומו, and it takes Avraham from his place. What takes Avraham from his place? That's talking about the second תקיעה in the sandwich. וממשיך אותו למטה למקום שגבורותיו של יצחק שורים. So the second תקיעה in the sandwich, we're talking about the first sandwich here in the 3 tashatim. So it takes Avraham, or the right column, or chesed, down to where Yitzchak is, down to where Gvura is. דהיינו שממשיך הערתו למטה מחזה דזעיר אנפין. It goes below the chest of זעיר אנפין. There's, just so you understand better, above the chest of זעיר אנפין, it said that judgment can't be there because it's too high. Judgment can only be, this type of judgment can only be below the chest of זעיר אנפין. So it brings Avraham, which is chesed, mercy, or kindness, down below the chest of זעיר אנפין, down to where the judgment is. כי כל תבחינות שבסדר הזה נמשכים למטה מחזה דזעיר אנפין, משום שכולם הם תחת שליטת קו השמאל. So because all of the tashatim are in the left column, we're dealing entirely here with below the chest of זעיר אנפין. שהוא יסוד הערת החוכמה שאינה מאירה, אלא במקום שלמטה מחזה דזעיר אנפין, which is the secret of the light of wisdom that does not shine except for below the chest of זעיר אנפין. כי מחזה ולמעלה היא בבחינת חסדים מכוסים מחוכמה. Because above the chest is light of mercy covered by light of wisdom. ואין שם שליטת כלל לבחינת כף שמאל, and there is no control there for the left column. ומקיימים את אברהם בתוכם, כלומר שכל סדר הזה הוא תחת שליטתו של ימין ושמאל. So this entire first sandwich is the right of the left. דהיינו בחינת אברהם שביצחק, which is Abraham of יצחק or חסד of גבורה. ונתבררו הכוונות של סדר תשת הראשון של ג' סדרי תשת. So that's the first תשת sandwich. Moving on to the second תשת sandwich. סדר השני, דהיינו סדר תשת השני של ג' סדרי תשת, שהוא תחת שיטת שמאל דשמאל. So here we're talking about in the second sandwich, we're on the left of the left. This is like judgment of judgment. שהוא שברים. יוצא קול שבור. A broken voice comes out. דהיינו שברים. What does it mean, a broken voice? It's talking about this sound that we make called shvarim. Shabur, shvarim is it's the same root word. They both mean broken. לא תקיף כראשון, not strong like the first. כלומר, שאין בו תרועה, because there's no תרועה. So we already before associated תרועה with like heavy, with a stronger hit. Shvarim is broken. כמו בשמאל שבתת בחינות דקו ימין, אלא שברים בלבד. So there's no תרועה like there was in the first three sandwiches. Here there's just שברים. ולא מפני שחלש כל ההוא שתוקע, אלא שכל ההוא אינו אל יצחק. שמחזה ולמעלה דזעיר אנפין. So it's not because the voice is weak, it's because, why is it called broken? It's because we're talking about Yitzchak here, which is below the chest of זעיר אנפין. כבתחילה, ששם שורה תוקף חזק, שאין הקו שמאל יכול להתגלות שם כלל, וצריך להכניע שם קו שמאל לגמרי. So, but if we are talking about the left column, or the judgment that's above the chest of זעיר אנפין, that's the judgment that we're minimizing with the shofar. That's the judgment that's getting broken. אלא שהכל בכאן הוא לאבד דין של מטה. So the voice here is for the court of below. What's the court of below? דהיינו להערת קו שמאל שמחזה ולמטה לזעיר אנפין. The court of below refers to the left column or the judgment that's from the chest and below of זעיר אנפין. כנ"ל בדיבור הסמוך, like we said before, ששם בחינת מלכות הנקראת בדין של מטה. So what is this court of below? We call it malchut, and we already said that malchut is in the aspect of judgment. שהדינים הם רפואיים יותר, there the judgment is lesser. משום שהערת מחזה ולמטה היא ממטה למעלה בלבד. Because the shining of the chest and below of זעיר אנפין goes from below to above, not above to below. וכולם רואים את אברהם אצלם, שהוא קו ימין ונכנעים לפניו. And they all see Abraham. What does it mean they see Abraham? We're talking about they see the right column, the kindness, the chesed, and they're destroyed before him. וכאן לא פירש הזוהר כל ג' קווים תקיע שברים תקיעה, כמו בקודמים, כי שמח עצמו על מה שביאר בקודמים, והוא מובן מאליו. So here the Zohar didn't explain the last tashat sandwich because it's exactly like before. So just to recap what's happening with tashat. First, we're starting off with, we take Avraham or Chesed down to where Yitzchak is. Why is the left column below the chest of זעיר אנפין? Because we've already removed the Gimel Rishonot, the upper half of the left column, so now it's only got the lower end of it. So we take chesed, we take kindness, the right column, down to where the judgment is, which is below the chest of Zeir Anpin. And when we bring it there, the judgment is nullified. בתוך כך מגיע סדר הגימל, דהיינו סדר תשת הגימל, של גימל סדרי תשת, שהוא תחת שליטת קו האמצעי לשמאל. So the third tashat sandwich is central column of the 3 tashat sandwiches, שהוא תקיעה שנייה. הכל יוצא, דהיינו תקיעה ראשון, והסליק היינו בשברים, ויתתר בראשי יעקב. So it says the voice goes out, and then it goes up, so that's the first tkiya, and then the shvarim, and the new part here is Bitater bereshed Yaakov. It is crowned it crowns the head of Jacob, or central column. היינו תקיעה השנייה, ומושך אותו למטה לאותו מקום שאלו הגבורות לשמאל שורים, and it brings central column also down to where the judgment is. דהיינו במקום שמחזב למטה לזעיר אנפין, which is below the chest of זעיר אנפין, ששם שורים כל תת בחינות לקו שמאל, ועומדים כנגד הערת השמאל הזו. So we brought the kindness of the right column down to where the judgment is, and we brought the central column down to where the judgment is. And they stand across from him, who's him, Yitzchak. Abraham and Jacob stand across from Yitzchak, or the right and central column stand next to the left column. Avraham mitzad zeh, mitzad yamin, שהוא תקיעה ראשון. So Abraham, the right column from the right side, ויעקב מצד זה, and Jacob from the central side, שהוא תקיעה שנייה, והם גבורות, דהיינו השברים שהוא סוד יצחק. בתוך שניהם, אז נכלאים כל הגבורות לשמאל. And once the left column is surrounded by both the right column and the central column, the left column is nullified. ונמצאים מאירים במקומם, דהיינו רק ממטה למעלה, ואינם נמשכים ממקומם למטה. And they shine in just where they are, meaning what's where they are, only below the chest of Zeir Anpin, because we already removed the gar, or the top half, the top 3, Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, of the left column, so now they can only shine in the lower half of Zeir Anpin. ונמצאים מאירים במקומם, דהיינו רק ממטה למעלה, only from below to above, ואינם נמשכים ממקומם למטה. וכל אלו ג' הסדרים, דהיינו ג' פעמים עם תשת הנזכרים, הם סדר כולל אחר שני, הכולל סדר בחינות שבקו שמאל. So all these 3 tashat sandwiches that we've talked about, that's the 9 parts of the left column. The tashratim, which we talked about earlier, were the 9 parts of the right column. This is the 9 parts of the left column. הסדר הכולל האחרון. So now we're going to the last set. דהיינו תת בחינות שהם ג' פעמים תרת, שהם בקו האמצעי. The 9 parts of the central column is tarat. תקיעה, תרועה, תקיעה. Notice there's no shvarim here. It's only תקיעה and תרועה. שאלו תת בחינות צריכים להעלות את הערת השמאל המאירים למטה מחזה. So what are we doing with these tarat sandwiches? What we're doing is we take the left column, and we actually, this is something interesting, we actually elevate them. So before we were bringing everything down to where the judgment is, below the chest, so this time we're elevating the judgment. So we take them from below the chest of Zeir Anpin to above the chest of Zeir Anpin. And we return the left column, or Yitzchak, to its place, where it was before. כלומר, לכסות את הערת השמאל שנקרא יצחק, כמו שהיה מכוסה מקודם, בעת הערת בחינות שבקו ימין. So we cover it like it was covered before. What do we cover it with? With the right column. המאירים מחזה למעלה, שזה נעשה בכוח הדינים לתורה. How do we do this? So why couldn't we do this before? Because right now we're dealing with, when we have only Torah, that's what the Torah is there for. The Torah is there after we've nullified the left and we've broken it and we've cut off the head. Now we make up and we bring it back to its place. משום שזה, דהיינו השמאל שהוא יצחק, צריכים להשרות אותו במקומו. Because at a certain point we do have to put it back to its place. באופן שלא יצא בתוקף הגבורות שלו לחוץ, we put it in its place, but in a way that the harsh judgments don't come out. ואז כל הדינים נכנעים והרחמים מתעוררים. And then the judgment is nullified and mercy is revealed. וכאן אין האזור מפרט את ג' פעמים טהרת כמו בקודמים, משום שהם על דרך הכוונה של הקודמים, חוץ ממה שהוסיף כאן שצריכים לכוון בכל תרועה. So the Zohar didn't go to the details of every single blast like we did in the last couple of sets, because we reapply the same overall rules of the last couple of sets. So how do we do that here? We have 3 sandwiches of tarat. The first one is on the right column of the center. Second one is on the left column of the center, and the third one is the center of the center. And what are we doing with tarat again? So with tashrat, with the right column, we cut off the head of the left. With the left column, we brought the right column and the central column down to where the judgment is after its head has been cut off. And with the central column, we bring the left column back to where it was before, but this time in a way that the harsh judgment doesn't get a chance to come out and only mercy is revealed. That's why when we hear the shofar, we have to meditate with our hearts and our desires. This whole 30 blast set of sounds, we have to do tshuva, to repent. And once we are capable of doing the shofar from the heart like it's supposed to be, so once we do the shofar like it's supposed to be down here, we awaken the shofar above, which is Bina. It shines again, and when it shines again, it crowns Jacob. It crowns the central column, which is Zohar Emor. And then everything is fixed, and we have the throne of mercy again. And then all the sins are erased, everything is forgiven, the Creator forgives everybody. Praise are those who know how to change judgment to mercy through the shofar. And that is the meditations of what we are doing with the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Thank you.